Adam Greer from the Wise Attic is joining me today. He is our expert in the ventilation and insulation space for your attic. Hey, Adam, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, and it's a pleasure to be here. How you doing?
I am living the dream. Love what I do, helping my neighbors learn more about their home and introduce them to experts like you to help them with that. So, as you know, a lot of the homes now in Houston have been around for at least 20, 30, 40 years, some up to 100 years. What are the biggest signs a homeowner should look for that tell them that their attic insulation and ventilation system is outdated, failing, or simply not up to the demands of our Houston climate? Can a ventilation system and insulation become outdated in a home?
That's a good question, and there's several ways to answer, I guess. It never could be outdated. What was put in is put in. Now, can it be made more efficient? Absolutely. And so, if it's done correctly from start, it will never be outdated. If it's done cheaper, then it could be improved. So, I guess to answer the question is, it can't be outdated, but it can be improved for sure. And so, that's what we want to look at. Is it a simple throw a ridge vent on and call it good, or is it box vents? Is it, what was the original system and put in? Because it's all a system, no matter what size, what type they use. But the contractors want to go as cheap as they can. When they're building that house, they don't want to put the high end. So that we can improve it for sure, almost guaranteed. Nobody has a electric fan or solar fan installed from the builder. They want to put the box vents and the ridge vents in. So outdated? No. Done right or done wrong or less efficient. It's not really ever wrong. Um, so we want to do it. We want to make it efficient, and that's what we look to do. Now, as far as insulation being outdated, old insulation, settles. Now the new technologies insulation, the type we use won't settle. It stays. Whatever you put in, it stays. So if you're 20 years old, you've probably settled as about as much you're gonna settle. But do we need to add to it? Often. If you're down to 4 inches through settling, let's get that sucker up to at least 8 inches. You want to be over the joist and not have all the rafters exposed. Um, then the question becomes, do we pull it out? That's always so. That's kind of ties into this outdated thing. There's several schools of thought on that for sure. If you open that attic door and it smells like it's an outhouse up there, cat box, yeah, let's get that out of there. It's ruined. But if it's not destroyed by weather, by critters, raccoons have been living up there. Raccoons will decimate an attic. We have an enzyme treatment we use to get up there and treat the insulation, refresh it, clean it up, and then we could put another layer on top of it. Save the consumer that 5 inches, 4 inches, instead of pulling it out. If your goal is to be at 13, you pull out the 4, you got to add the full 13. If you have 4, we just, add 9 inches. So it saves money all the way around. So that could be outdated, I guess, is yes, used up. But as long as it's there, it's still doing its job. It's just not as much R value as we had at the beginning.
Adam, I would imagine when you go into an older home, let's say it's 80 years old, even 50 years old, back when the design was more like this versus all these new, you know, roof lines, I
Yeah.
would imagine those are probably ventilated properly. The insulation may be of a lesser standard. I know the standards have gone up how many inches we should have. That's an easy fix. But I would imagine the ventilation was probably pretty simple. You've got some soffit vents or some other type of intake vent, and you've got some, I like to call a hole in the roof, if you will. It's an air hawk or even a whirlybird maybe, but something where that cooler air can be drawn from the outside through the attic through the top.
Yeah.
So am I right? The older roofs, the simple ones are probably done right.
Yeah. Yeah. The older, just basic attic that was designed to do a job. And we've talked about this before. There's a job that the attic is supposed to perform. Simple, the job was easier. You get too much going on up there. You get these 14-foot tall ceilings, the peaks and nooks and crannies all over the place. That is so tough to get all that air to move efficiently. And so often, you look at square footage and say a fan needs, with this much square footage equals this much wattage on a fan, how many fans? Sometimes you gotta put several fans on just get all that there's just no one direct path because you always wanna be at the highest, most central place. That's the optimum position of a fan, but that isn't always gonna move the air efficiently. You gotta really look at it, map it out, and pull the air in all the different ways you have to pull it to get it all out of there.
Adam, as always, you've been very helpful. I really appreciate you and what you and your team at the Wise Attic does. All of Adam's information is located in the description of this podcast. Go take a look and click away. Thanks, buddy.
You're welcome. Thank you.